That's the thing. Nobody ever really wants to talk about it, but everyone always has that umbrella of credit over their head. And so the industry seems to change a lot, but I can't keep up with the changes. But I know someone that does, and that would be you guys. So I'm glad that you're on the show. Greetings, Red Tie community. It's the Bald Guy in the Red Tie. John Butler, your favorite bald-headed red tie wearing show host, here with some credit challenges. Or at least I had credit challenges until I met someone very special, very important, so important that she's been on the show 3 times, and she's bringing a guest today. That's right, we're talking about Tiffany Cross, Dedicated Credit Repair, and her good buddy, Kyle Frasier at Cut Up Debt. I nailed that, didn't I?
You did such a good job. That's so
awesome.
good.
Woo!
Thank you for doing this for us and featuring us. It's awesome.
Well, every time you open your mouth, whether it's the Lunch and Learn or you've been on the show or just in the consultation that I've had with you, my mind always expands. Like I always learn something about credit. And, you know, credit's one of those topics like people don't necessarily sit around and talk about it a lot, but it's one of those things that is very important. Like it really controls your financial destiny in many ways, right? Like if you want to rent an apartment, if you want to buy a house, you want to get credit cards, all that kind of stuff. If you don't know how to navigate the system, you're kind of screwed. And it's like they never taught me this in school, right? And so when I came across and I got to meet you and you expanded my awareness of it, now I'm at an 800 credit score. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. I'm so glad. You know, it's interesting, John. That's one of my biggest my heart for what we do is the fact that this is not in the schools. It's bizarre that the curriculum avoids it almost, you know? So, so Kyle is visiting California from Texas, and we'll talk about a little bit more about that. But it was exciting to be able to collaborate with another person of our industry that has the same ethical standards, kind of the same size business, I would say, in a totally different state that has the same heart for what we do. So I wanted to invite him on into my world a little bit.
Well, we just got to know each other for about the past hour as you gave the Lunch and Learn here. So I'm really interested to know the backstory of how you guys kind of collaborated and your paths merged. Like, how did you guys kind of cross paths?
We met the old-fashioned way. We met on the internet.
Yeah. That's the only way to meet people nowadays, right?
Right. No, we are involved in the credit repair industry. There's a number of Facebook groups and communities for credit repair business owners. Some of those groups are better than others. Some of them are more serious about ethics than others, et cetera, et cetera. And we met in some of the better groups where the heart is truly aimed at ethical businesses and doing things the right way and not just trying to, make as much money as possible off of the consumers that are in a desperate position because of their damaged credit and things like that. It makes them really vulnerable, and there's a lot of people that are just there to try to get wealthy off of these people versus truly caring about them and wanting to help them succeed. And so we met in a group of like-minded business owners.
Completely compliance. You know, the group that we met in is 100% about driving an industry that has a complete black eye, essentially, right? Deservedly, into a totally different transforming into a totally different mindset of, let's go above and beyond and spearhead a group and watch people either dissolve from not, following suit or just step up your game and make compliance 100% the feature of our industry. And I think it's interesting to watch the divide. I think the regulation in our industry is becoming more and more strict and stringent. And there's always going to be the business owner that tries to find the loopholes. And then there's those of us who go, no, let's run towards compliance, figure out a better way. And instead of avoiding it, how can we be better? And then how can we, help our consumers even more? And in doing so, quite frankly, for 17 years now, I've always wanted to collaborate with another company that would not be necessarily in competition with me, so that we could bounce things off and become better. But honestly, there's not a whole lot to choose from as far as who would I really want to talk to in our industry.
Open up to.
Yeah. And who do I really want to learn from? And there's not a lot of that available. So it was kind of fun to meet, there's an actual group of elite professionals offering tremendous amount of value. And since we're not in the same state, it worked well to collaborate.
So let's pull back the curtain on the credit and repair industry. For the layperson like myself, that it seems like its own world, but it seems like from what I hear you guys saying, that there's a lot of shadows in that world. And so, like, what does a unethical company look like, and what is it that they're doing to the end consumer? What's going on there?
We both look at each other. Well, how far do you want the curtain, Mo?
Let's go down the rabbit hole.
Okay. Well, I'll just give a couple examples, and of course you'll have some too. So, I mean, at the end of the day, a lot of them are MLMs, right? They're all about helping a business in a box, grow somebody that has absolutely no knowledge of anything become a millionaire tomorrow morning by just starting this business and push this button and all the things, right? So no education necessarily required. In most cases, they haven't even researched what it looks like to operate legally and ethically and what the guidelines of each state requires. So in our case in California, it's you got to be registered with the Department of Justice and vetted and all that. So they'll, use Venmo as their processing for credit cards, and they'll promise illegal result, illegally guarantee, bizarre situations that have no chance of happening and things like that.
Yes, two things really that really stand out is one is there's a lot of them that truly are very, very inexperienced, and they've learned a few catchphrases that they can use to make themselves appear to be experts, or credit repair gurus and things like that. And to an unsuspecting consumer who, number one, is in a very difficult situation because of bad choices and things that have happened in their life. And now they're wanting to better themselves. They're wanting to try to buy a house or, get a better job or buy a better vehicle or whatever. And they have no clue how credit works or how to help themselves. And so they turn to someone for help. And oftentimes that someone is a person who has ordered a paperback book off of Amazon, spend a weekend reading it, maybe
if that,
maybe paid $46 for a 30-day trial of a software that's going to generate cookie cut dispute letters for them, and now they are calling themselves they do this on Friday. On Monday morning, they wake up and they're out on the streets and they're on social media and they're calling themselves a credit repair expert and looking for suspecting clients that they can sign up and take their money. And credit repair is not, it's not like they're taking their money at $20 at a time. It's more like $100 at a time, something like that. And that adds up quick, and that's significant, especially if it's a single mom, working to better her life and better the life of her children, things like that. And they have, someone that has no clue what they're doing, calling themselves a credit repair expert. And
tell us how you really feel, Kyle.
and the biggest reason that is happening, honestly, is because there is no accountability within the industry. The other players tend to turn a blind eye to this and allow it to continue instead of saying, hey, wait a minute, what you're doing is wrong, get out of our industry. We're gonna exile you and you're not wanted because what you're doing is wrong. But that's not happening. And so that's why there are some organizations that are really pushing towards self-regulating, because if we don't regulate ourselves, then the government's going to.
Which is kind of why we're here. At the end of the day, that is happening. The government is 100% going, okay, we're done. We're done with the bad actors in our industry. And it's time to clean house. And I think that what's kind of fun about that is for those of us who've operated in that world that way this entire time, it's like finally
Cleaning
we get
house.
to see them clean house.
Yeah.
Those of us who've steadily grown responsibly every year are going to now see that, maybe we will triple the ability to provide our service, because there's hopefully going to be less people doing it the wrong way. That's my hope, at least.
Sounds very similar to real estate.
Yeah.
There's over 6,000 agents just in this local area, but altogether there's over 1 million, in the United States, and a lot of them shouldn't be in it. So I totally understand the frustrations there. What are some like red flags that the average consumer can kind of just have in their mind? So if they are talking to one of these, you know, fly by night operations, like what are some things that like the bell should be going off? Is there some questions? Big promises like, hey, 800
promises at all.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I mean, if they promise you that they're going to increase your score X amount of points, or they promise you that they're going to get this negative item deleted or this, that, or promise you that it's all going to happen in 60 days, 90 days, any kind of promise like that is a huge red flag.
Okay, so no promises. That's not a good thing.
Right.
Okay.
And in the same vein is you're not going to walk into an attorney's office and have an attorney guarantee you they're going to win your case.
Yeah.
So if you walk into a credit repair office and talk to someone and they guarantee you they're going to get what you want, then that is a big red flag that they're unethical and that they're just out to get your money, because there's no way they can make those promises.
Agreed. And I will say too that I tell my clients, you know what? I love when they shop around. At the end of the day, you should, as a credit repair, I should say CEO or whatnot, you should be able to, on the fly, show 15 to 20 clients real time that you didn't fix their credit 15 years ago, or one time I got a bankruptcy. You need to be able to show real time. These are 15 clients currently in my program. This was their first credit, you know, of course, with their permission. You've got to get that permission. But here's progress reports of 15 active clients. So you can see real time results, varying versions of what that looks like. And then my feel is if you're an expert in credit repair, show your credit. Why wouldn't you be willing to do that? I've talked to so many credit repair experts and been like, let's do this. Let's see it. You know, not necessarily combative, but show me. You know, like, you know, 500 FICO. You're like, wow. You know, like that's pretty impressive that you guarantee results, but your credit's horrific, right? So that type of thing. And then, of course, saying, you know, at the end of the day, what's your licensing requirements, and show me that they're, you know, up to speed. It's so sad that you have to do that. And the other thing too, I was actually telling you last time I was here, I have literally built a business model on not being a jerk. It's crazy. It's so funny that it would be not expected. I mean, it's like, oh my gosh, Tiffany's honest. I'm going to give her my business. That's how bad the industry is. And it's to a point where it's almost, for so many years, almost embarrassing when I would introduce myself and say what I did. I'd be like, oh, you know, I didn't really want to proudly say what I do. And now that the industry is turning around, it's like, you know what, it feels good to not have to kind of like air quote, I don't know if you share that.
Think of alternative titles to what we do instead of saying we do credit repair.
Credit education expert,
we
you know.
educate you. It does feel good.
It feels good to have the industry kind of doing a big old sweep, you know.
Sounds like it's been long overdue and much needed.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And then, so let's kind of dive into your story a little bit. So you're from Texas. What part of Texas are you from?
I am located near Tyler in a small town of Lindale, which is about 10 miles north of Tyler, which is about an hour and 20 minutes east of Dallas. And been there. I have been in the debt relief and credit repair business off and on for my entire life, since the early 90s. And this particular company that I own now has been open since 2017. And from the very beginning, it has always been about, we're going to treat people the right way. If I can't go home at night and sleep good, then I don't need to be in the business. You know, if you know, some, you know, single mother or widow or something like that comes in and I, you know, talked her into something that she can't afford or that she doesn't need or whatever, just so I can, you know, stuff my pocket with her last bit of money, then this is not for me. And there are so many companies that their focus above and beyond anything else is, I just want to make all the money I can get in the credit repair business versus, you know, I want to change all the lives I can change, you know? And so I tell people all the time, I just want you to get what's best for you, whether that's me referring you to another provider or whatever, you know, I want you to get the best help you can get. And so that's been the heart of my business since day one.
I think that sums it up right there, is that heart, you know, and I'm just getting to know you, but I know Tiffany. And when I personally went through a credit challenge, you know, during the crisis of, the early, I don't know, what do you call it, early 2010s or whatever it was.
Eights, nines, tens,
Eight,
yeah.
nine, tens,
Yeah.
when it was just,
It was horrible.
it's a financial storm for everybody, right? And so you made maybe not the best choices and decisions and whatnot. And so we took a hit and we got down to like 540 credit score. And not knowing, because you're just kind of running blind and, running up your credit cards or closing them and doing all the wrong things. And then so when I met you, within 30 minutes of you just having a free consultation, right, you had that heart. And it was very apparent that it wasn't like a sale. It was more of a, I want you to understand these things because you wanted me to better my life. And it sounds like you guys, so I could see why you guys connected and merged paths there, because it sounds like you have that same heart's desire to better someone's life. And when you have that as your leading cause, I think that's just a formula for success. So that's really cool that you guys share that in common.
Thank you. And that's we were talking earlier about anybody can come alongside in a large corporation and deal with consumers, the 50th million, whatever. For us, we're a family-owned business, and we started it from the ground up based on our own story, similar to yours, right? And at the time, it was literally almost impossible to find a company locally. When I say locally, even all the way to LA, to help us in a way that we felt confident in doing that. And at the time, my ex-husband and I were like, we could very well use our story to help other people. And I do think what's interesting about that experience, right, as believers, we talked about the fact that I feel like it's our responsibility to use your own story when given an opportunity to help other people come alongside. And what I do find interesting is I feel like if you use your story and it's honest and it's authentic, what better way to help other people, no matter what that story looks like. Yeah. And I think there was a time in my business where I wouldn't share my personal story. And it was more like, well, it's kind of too recent. kind of felt like there's the fake it till you make it feel, not necessarily in the authenticity of my program, but I didn't really want to look like I had ever had bad credit, which is such a silly, horrible way to run, And once I went, no, I need to be sharing it, and it makes you relatable, and it makes it a very easy way to express empathy to people. And when that's lacking and you're in credit repair, you're in the wrong business, because this is not an easy industry. Would you agree?
I would definitely agree.
Yeah.
It definitely, I think you hit the tone there with just maybe that shame and embarrassment that people feel, because our society is very much built on how well you're keeping up with the Joneses and look at the cars and the houses and all this kind of stuff. And then I'm sure because you guys see this all the time, but what's going on beneath the surface, people are highly in debt, making bad financial decisions or whatever it is. And so there's a lot of shame that comes with that, because they're looking around like, well, nobody else seems to be making bad decisions. It's only me. And then so when you get into that environment, but you can meet with someone such as yourselves that have had that personal testimony and can go through that and kind of lead someone by the hand. That's so huge. It's so important.
It is. Yeah. It can be love-hate sometimes, in the sense that, it takes sometimes refreshing your mind a little bit to stay in that place of empathy, because quite frankly, there's some behavioral patterns sometimes that need to be broken, even when it comes to how they operate, the consumer sometimes with how they operate with us, and a little bit of a blame. It's not my fault. Wasn't me. So it's a very much a way to go, okay, let's fix a lot of things, not just your payment history, but the practice of identifying behaviors that we have that are habitual
in
some cases.
Thinking.
Yeah. Yeah, and that makes it fun, because at that point you're really going to the core of the problem and not just, putting a Band-Aid on a gunshot wound, essentially.
Well, I would think that it would almost be necessary, right? I mean, an absolute necessity, because I think you can clean someone's credit, but if they still have those same patterns psychologically, they're just going to keep doing it in bad ways. So it's good that you get in there and you get messy with it.
We do. Yeah. Get messy.
Yeah, get messy.
Messy getting clean. It's kind of a fun story. Yeah.
Right.
Do you have any super stories of someone that was in a very bad spot and then you took them to somewhere where, they're on top of the mountain, raising their arms in glory?
I think we all, have a number of stories like that. And that's a great feeling, for someone to go and leave a really thorough online review for your company, talking about how, you as a company have truly changed their life, and things like that. That's why we do it. Okay, for someone to send us a picture of them getting their keys on their home, or showing their they're standing beside their new car on the showroom floor, things like that. That's why we do what we do. To see people win, to see somebody get ahead, and because most of the time these people are people that, when it comes to their finances, ahead has never really been a word that described them.
Right.
They've always had some issues, whether it was, whatever. Maybe they rented all their lives, and now finally the world's lined up and they can buy their first home, or, they've always went and bought cars at a place where you pay right there, and, it's a clunker or whatever. And for them to be, driving away in a new smelling car, I mean, that's makes it all worth it. Those are the stories that we really, really love to hear. And I know she has a whole bunch of similar stories of her own. So
we do. That to that comment though, I think it's interesting because there is that client, right? That's just kind of, that's their normal, and they've gotten used to it. And the idea of having a different reality is new to them. But then there's also the client that literally woke up the next, husband died in his sleep and no life insurance, and it was completely not habitual life circumstances. It was 100% an unexpected life event that happens, right? COVID, who could have predicted that, people are going to get laid off and lose a lot of things. And it takes an unexpected illness or a divorce or just, those things too. So it's important to, for our team to really discern that, because sometimes there can be, to your comment about it's embarrassing, it doesn't need to be. And that's where I love coming alongside people that have gone through divorce. I went through one. It was horrible. It was a horrible experience, and it's coming alongside with empathy and going, this is not because you're a bad person, right? This unexpected things happen, and taking the shame off of it, because it doesn't need to be that way,
Yeah. Life's a funny thing because there's so many dynamics to it. We can be going along just fine, and all of a sudden someone passes away, or COVID happens, or you lose your job, and all of a sudden you're just swirling around the toilet bowl of life, and it's hard to climb back up that mountain. But with people like you guys, you can. It's so good to have people in your corner like you guys to make that happen. So I think you're doing God's work. You're doing some good stuff there.
Thanks, John.
Amen. Thank you so much for saying that.
It's important. And I find it interesting that, and this is just me going off on my own little tangent here, but it seems like the system doesn't want you to know the rules of the game. Because if you don't know the rules of the game, then you can't win. And so, like you're saying earlier, they want you in that 500 credit score because then they could charge you the higher interest rates and all this kind of thing. Or, but once you learn the rules of the game, and they're usually not that hard to learn. If you have trusted people like yourselves, it's like, oh, wait a minute, all I have to do is this, this, and this. Oh, okay, now I know the formula, and now I can play the game, and now I can get myself out of that. That's huge.
There's more goals than FICO scores too, right? So obviously I'm FICO driven. I want to educate people on the FICO score, but sometimes when a consumer comes to me, really that's not what they should be thinking about. It's about making financially smart choices for their specific goals that may have absolutely no bearing on FICO right now. Getting out of debt, certain things. Like I keep name dropping Dave Ramsey, but there is a time and a place for that, right? And at the end of the day, they don't always play well in the sandbox together. And it's not a matter of one or the other. It can be, for today, I'm focusing on my FICO score. I get in my house, and then I'm going to go debt free and do all the things that I know to do to keep my budget and all. So that's different. It's ironic, to your point, that they don't, that they're not the same rules, right? What you think what would be financially smart would also equal an excellent FICO score, which is not always the case.
No, it's not. Yeah. And we have seen so many situations where people would come into our office and they would be like, I make $300,000 a year. I've got $150 in the bank right now, and what's going on? I can't even go buy a car. I can't even finance a car. I can't get a house. I can't. I've had the same job for 15 years, and I'm an executive or whatever. And the interesting thing about it is none of those things matter. a person working at the 7-Eleven can have better credit than that guy.
Yeah.
And that's just the way the scoring system it works. To a lot of us, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. And
I like that. Yeah. I personally love that. To me, like when you get the entitled client that in that circumstance just had it yesterday, very much, well, I'm a big deal kind of thing. Okay, but the rules still apply to you. You can't be too busy to pay things on time and various things. And for me, I like that from that perspective. Just it is an even playing field a little bit on where that's concerned. But it's fascinating that, again, we aren't educated on these things. We can learn all kinds of weird things in high school that I'll never remember.
Right.
But how wonderful would it have been to learn, hey, by the way, you're going to exit into adulting. This might be a little important in that we're all penalized for not knowing it, but not necessarily given the tools when you walk out of the, high school with.
It's literally one of the most important things that you need to navigate in your life is your credit.
And where else do you have a 7-year penalty for something that you weren't taught? I mean, it's like 7 years.
Yeah, that's heavy.
You're late, 7 years, that's going to affect you. I'm like, wow, that's a pretty severe deal, right?
Mm-hmm.
And not knowing that is kind of a critical thing. I think if 21-year-old Tiffany that was at San Diego State and like, well, maybe I'll get my hair done instead of pay my,
I remember being 18 and the first day of college campus, I think they don't do this anymore because probably the rules have changed, but, credit card companies were out there signing people up and, it's a $500 credit card. Hey, just sign here and, the minimum monthly payment's, $8 a month or whatever it is. And so when you're 18, you're like, wait, I get $500 and I only have to pay $8 a month? Oh, this is great. Yeah. And then you miss those payments and the interest goes up and then you're paying those late fees. And then all of a sudden you owe $5,000 on it or something insane like that. And then you're penalized everywhere else in it. And it's truly criminal. But I think they did away.
I don't know that they did away with that. But
are they still signing the kids up?
College campus, I mean, you're just sitting there like, a little prey.
Oh, yeah.
And most
Fresh
of us,
fish.
You get a free beer mug.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
Yeah, right.
Maybe that's just San Diego State. Maybe some of the other colleges were a little better gifts. I don't know, but that was totally my reality too.
Yeah.
And, we all did it, or not all, but sadly, I relate to you.
Yeah.
And it is what it is, but you do have to learn. But that advocacy, for our company, we do teach, we do online classes, Zoominars, I think is what we're doing now. Zoom, everything Zoom. We'll get 30, 40, 18-year-olds once a month in the evening that register for the class, and we do provide that.
That's great.
Usually they come from realtor friends and referral partners that want their kids to be a part of it. But hopefully that'll change. That's our goal, is to get that in the curriculum.
Like they say, you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
And so I'm glad that people are like you guys are out there, blowing the trumpet and saying, hey, here's the truth of how this works, because we know adults that don't know how the game has worked, let alone an 18-year-old. So, but again, going back to my original point, I think they do that by design. They don't want you to know the rules of the game there.
I agree.
So what are some common misconceptions that the consumer has about credit? Because we just did a lunch and learn, so you kind of hit these like, I got $1,000 credit line limit. I could just spend $1,000, no big deal, right? But that's a big no-no. Why is that?
No-no. Well, that instance in particular, it's a big no-no because what they refer to as credit utilization, which simply stated is the percentage of your available credit that you're actually using, that you have charged up, accounts for 30% of the FICO score. Now, in comparison, your payment history makes up only 35%. So that's how big of a deal that credit utilization is. It's almost neck and neck with you paying your bills on time,
right.
The importance of it. And the reason why is because they want to see that you can have credit cards in your wallet and not go on a shopping spree,
right.
And keep them there, not go crazy, be disciplined with them. And for someone to have high utilization is a big indicator that they're probably living beyond their means. And that's why that hurts the score so much. So that's one. Tiffany may have another example. of a misconception, but that's a big one.
That's, I think, one of the largest ones. My biggest one, well, two, neck and neck to your comment, is the idea that if you pay something off that's derogatory, that you're going to somehow get rewarded. You know, you don't get points back, you know, on your credit. Oh, look, I paid this off that was in collections for 4 years. Nope. They just expect that you will do that, right? So you don't rewarded, you don't get the points back that you lost by bringing something current. It's the deletion of that from your credit report that brings the score up. Granted, it's important to bring it current because, of course, that stops future damage, which is critical, but you absolutely are not going to see your scores go up because you paid 3 collection accounts. That's my number one. And then number 2 would just be people going, I'm trying to fix my credit. I just paid my car off 2 weeks ago. I'm like, oh, gosh, I wish I would have talked to you 2 weeks ago because that doesn't help your credit. It's not revolving credit. It's installment debt. It's treated very differently. And that's the second biggest common thing.
Can we hit on that real quick? Because I suffered that pain where I thought I was doing the right thing and I paid my car off because I was like, oh, look at me. I'm not going to have any car payments because that's something. I just want to get that monkey off my back, right? And so I was probably like, 40 months into a 48-month installment term, but I got kicked in the knees for it. So would it be better just to do all 48, or regardless, when that thing's paid off, it goes against you? Does that make sense?
It all depends on what your goal is.
Exactly.
And I tell this all the time, okay, if it's a client that is just, they're just working with us to improve their credit, but they're not immediately trying to buy a home or whatever, then I'll tell them, look, I'm not going to tell you to keep paying interest on a loan that you don't have to pay. I mean, if you have the money, you pay the loan off, save the money in interest. Now, on the other hand, if it's a client that is wanting to buy a home in 3 months or 2 months, then that's a totally different story. Or because they're going to get the hit for paying the account off because, open credit is always better than past credit because open credit is an indicator of you today versus, okay, last year you had an account, but it's been closed for 9 months. Maybe you paid it all on time, but have you paid everything on time since then? And that's why current accounts have more value than closed accounts. But again, I tell people, I don't want you to make bad money decisions just to try to secure a few more points on your credit score.
Right.
And chances are, if they're in our program for credit repair, that loan that they do have is probably a pretty high interest rate anyway.
Right.
So, if they can pay it off, save that money in interest, and we'll work on getting the credit score back up if you don't have a pending major purchase.
Which is never the case for me. All my clients are trying to buy houses, like literally. Yeah. So as soon as I hear that, I'm like, no, because it's a big, but I mean, the proactive client that's coming. But here's the other thing that's unique about our business is his clients, we'd say 99% of them are consumer direct marketing. So they're more consumers with all kinds of focuses, right? So they're coming to you for car purchases and all that. My business comes almost all from mortgage lenders and realtors. So I have to almost be like tunnel vision with the consultation. Of course, we ask all that because it could vary. But again, the goal is everything.
Yep.
And if it's a home buyer in the making, there's like red flags, flying. I literally throw flags at them when they're even talking about that kind of stuff. So it's all about caring about the individual and not just doing this random blanket program, which is, again, to the bad guys in the industry don't tailor it. It's just you get the same letter and the same process and the same program regarding, depending on what your interests are. It doesn't matter, that kind of thing. So, it's interesting.
You really take the time to get to know them and their nuances with their finances and such, their goals. Yeah. That's huge. So what are some other things that this we should be aware of that's going on in your industry right now? Because it seems like, like you said, the things are changing, cleaning house. Sounds like you guys are going to come out good, so that's awesome. But is it just kind of trimming the fat on the industry? And
well,
I always look at you for that. How deep do you want to go?
Yeah.
To be honest, we are starting to trim the fat on the industry, but the knife is pretty small. The movement is still in its infancy, okay? But at least we have vision now, and we have a plan to make a bigger difference going forward. But recently, within the last couple of years, there have been a couple of major actions brought on by the federal government and the regulatory industry, either the Federal Trade Commission or the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, which are both federal agencies that protect consumers, have taken some pretty big actions against some of the larger players in the industry. And so that was, the first shots have been fired towards reform. And now we're just waiting to see, both of these cases that come to mind haven't been resolved in court yet. They're still pending, open, ongoing litigation and things like that. So it's going to be real interesting to see how those cases get resolved ultimately, and how that affects the industry. So yeah, we're excited, but it's not like we're at the point where we're going to see wholesale change by the end of 2022. It's not that fast, but we are at least headed in that direction, even if it's only smaller steps for now. And that is still exciting.
Takes a while to turn a big ship.
It does.
Exactly. And what I liked about the group how we met was those of us that are like, just what's worst case scenario look like? Like what are the rules? And even if those rules are exaggerated, what does that look like? And it was interesting to see a group of people, professionals, just going crazy in this Facebook group. I'm not doing that, and that's da-da-da, and, and everybody had a workaround. And what if we, it was interesting. I have never looked good in black and white horizontal stripes in my life. I could literally die before doing that. I just will never do it.
Right.
And to me, I'm like, okay, I want to talk to the people that are like think tank. How do we acknowledge the truth about what's going to come down? And of course, there's a fear factor and a little bit of nobody wants to change how they're doing things.
Right.
Even for us, it's going to take some adjustment as far as how we price, do certain things, but how we charge clients, and it could be, it's a lot. But I feel like those of us that are in that, let's run towards it. Mm-hmm. Let's figure out how to not make it a 24-month transition. If we can make it a 6-month to a year transition, what a great marketing. Besides the fact that it's just ethical to do so, if you're the only 3 companies in the nation that are doing it, like, hello, it always bears fruit to do the right thing. That's kind of my philosophy. And if it doesn't bear fruit doing the right thing, you're doing the wrong thing. You're in the wrong situation, wrong industry, know.
It's always the right thing to do the right thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That's huge. So,
what do you think?
It's
we're going to stay in this thing? Are we going to stay in this business?
We're here. It's the problems are so widespread that even if the federal government were to announce tomorrow, it is a criminal act to do credit repair without this criteria, this criteria, this criteria, there would still be, tons and tons of people doing it.
Right.
On the black market, I guess you could say, for lack of a better term. They would still be doing it, just promoting themselves through word of mouth or through social media or whatever. And it's what's going to happen is the problem is so widespread that they can't come in. The regulators can't come in and go to this city block and shut down this guy that's doing credit repair out of his house, and then go 1 block over and shut down this other guy who's working out of his mom's basement. And, they can't do that. So what they're going to do, and they've done this in other industries, is they put a chokehold on the affiliates, payment processing companies, software providers, the tools that credit repair companies need to survive. And they go in and they take those and they start choking them. And if you don't get a lot more selective on who you sell your services to and who you're willing to do business with, we're going to shut you down. And that's where we're headed. And recently a major...
already credit card companies are like, wait, you're with credit repair and you got to go through the ringer
to
get approved to even run payment.
Right, and then the payments are, the rates are outrageously expensive. And so recently there's been an action against one of the largest credit repair software providers, and that's, a big warning shot to all of these companies that offer, their services to enable credit repair businesses to operate. Is, we know there's, like I said, there's too many of you to go after one at a time, but there may only be 10 major players that support all of these. So we're going to put real pressure on you guys until you stop doing business with anybody who's got $1,
Wow.
And that's, but in doing that, it makes things a lot more inconvenient for companies like mine and Tiffany's, because now we have to unnecessarily go through all this red tape and all of this stuff. But we still wouldn't change it.
Yeah.
Even if it's
I'm just kidding.
even if
some
it
of
is
it.
more
It's been a lot.
inconvenient,
But yeah, no.
but hopefully it's going to work,
Yeah.
and it's going to weed out the bad players, and the ones that survive will have proven that they deserve to be in the business, that they're actually doing things the right way, and they're helping people that need help.
It's huge. Well, it sounds like a season of changes, but I know you guys are going to come out ahead of this, and you guys have always been shining stars, so it's a good thing. So any final thoughts to kind of wrap this up and put your contact out there, and what's the best way for people in Texas to get a hold of you and Californians to get a hold of you?
Go ahead.
Well, right now, people in both Texas and Florida can work with us, and we will be adding the state of Oklahoma, hopefully by the end of the year, maybe faster. But my company can be reached at cutupdebt.com or 903-882-3328, which is debt. 903-882
Nice.
debt, DEBT,
Great.
or cutupdebt.com.
Great marketing there. I like that.
That's good.
Yeah.
Why not think of that?
Yeah.
Just kidding.
Because you're dedicated to
I am
repairing the credit
dedicated.
with dedicated credit repair.
Yeah, and our website's dcrusa.com, and I'm sure we'll put the number up or down, whatever we do on the video, but it's 951-246-7754. And you know what? If you're not in our area that we can assist, we have a gazillion contacts in all the right states and all the right places, and with the right players that are aligning with this vision. And I appreciate you featuring me, John. You're amazing. You're amazing.
Thank you. Well, it's always good to know the good guys. So I'm glad that you guys came in, because like I said, it's a very important thing that a lot of people don't talk about, credit and all that kind of thing, but it does kind of govern your life. So it's important to be aware of it, to know what's going on, and most importantly, to know the good players in the industry, and that would be you guys. So I'm very glad to be aligned with that as well. So with that said, thanks for being on the show as the first three-peat Red Tie community guest. So you've been on for 3 times, so congratulations. That's
Thank
huge.
you.
Because you're just so valuable with all your knowledge and information. So, and then you got Kyle to boot, so you guys are just teaming up and doing amazing things. So I'm proud of that. Glad to see that happen.
It's been a pleasure to be here. Thanks for inviting
Thank you.
me.
Yeah, and you got great taste and hairstyle. So
Oh, yeah.
looking good, sir.
Yeah,
looking good.
of course. Bald guy.
That's right. All right, Kyle Frasier with Cut Up Debt, Tiffany Cross with Dedicated Credit Repair, and John Butler, your favorite bald-headed red tie wearing realtor with the Red Tie Community Show, saying see you in escrow. Bye.